Master English Essential Vocabulary List. Good day everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into essential English vocabulary that will help you master the language. If you're ready to expand your vocabulary and speak English with more confidence, you're in the right place. We'll cover articles, adjectives, verbs, common phrases, modal verbs, telling time, minutes and days of the week. This is your fast track to fluency, so let's get started. All right, let's start with articles. Now, you use these every single day, whether you realize it or not. They're those little words that come before nouns. You know, a noun, a person, a place, or a thing. In English, we have the a and an is what we call the definite article. We use the when we're talking about something specific, something that both the speaker and the listener already know about. For example, the cat sat on the mat. We already know which cat and which mat we're talking about. Maybe it was mentioned earlier in the conversation. Now, a and an are indefinite articles. We use them when we're talking about something in general, something not specific. So if I say a cat, it could be any cat, right? We use a before words that start with a consonant sound, like a book, a car, a house. And we use them before words that start with a vowel sound, like an apple, an umbrella, an hour. Easy peasy, right? Mastering articles might seem like a small thing, but trust me, it makes a big difference in your fluency. Next up, we have adjectives. Now, adjectives are your secret weapon to make your English more interesting, more descriptive, more colorful. Basically, they're words that describe nouns. They tell us more about the noun, giving us extra information. Think about a simple sentence like, the cat sat on the mat. A bit boring, right? But watch what happens when we add some adjectives. The fluffy ginger cat sat on the bright blue mat. See, more interesting already. We've got fluffy and ginger describing the cat and bright and blue describing the mat. And the best part, English has tons of adjectives. We've got happy, sad, big, small, beautiful, ugly, new, old, young, fast, slow, strong, weak, tall and short, just to name a few. The more adjectives you learn, the more precisely you can express yourself. So don't be afraid to experiment and have fun with them. Now, let's move on to verbs. Verbs are the action words in a sentence. They tell us what's happening, what someone or something is doing. Without verbs, well, our sentences would be pretty boring. Imagine trying to tell a story without any action. Some common verbs in English include to be, to have, to go, to come, to do, to make, to take, to see, to know, to think, to say, to speak, to write, to read, and to walk. And guess what? Just like nouns, we can use adjectives to describe verbs too. For example, instead of just saying he walked, we can say he walked quickly or he walked slowly. See how those adverbs add more detail to the verb walked? They tell us how he walked, painting a clearer picture in our minds. Chapter 4, Phrasey, your everyday English toolkit. Now let's dive into some common phrases that you'll use all the time in everyday conversations. These are like your English shortcuts, ready to use in a flash. Let's start with greetings. You've got hello, hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Then we have those essential phrases for getting to know someone, like what's your name and nice to meet you. And of course we need phrases for when we need help or information, such as, excuse me, could you please repeat that? And how do you say, don't forget about expressing your feelings. Phrases like, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm tired, and I'm excited come in handy all the time. And lastly, let's not forget about those polite phrases that make you a true English gentleman or lady. Thank you, you're welcome, please, and excuse me go a long way in any conversation. Chapter 5, Verbi Modali. Unlocking possibilities in English. All right, time to tackle modal verbs. Now, these little guys might seem a bit tricky at first, but trust me, once you get the hang of them, they'll unlock a whole new level of fluency in your English. So, what are modal verbs? They're like helper verbs. They work with the main verb to express possibility, ability, permission, or obligation. Think of them as the superheroes of the verb world. Let's start with can and could. Can is used to express ability in the present, like I can swim. Could is the past form of can, but it can also be used to ask for permission politely, like could I borrow your pen, please? Next up, we have will and would. Will expresses a future intention or prediction, like I will go to the store later. Would is the past form of will, but it can also be used to express a polite request, like, would you mind closing the window? Now let's move on to shall and should. Shall is a bit more formal and is often used to make suggestions or offers, like, shall we go to the cinema tonight? Should expresses obligation or recommendation, like, you should study for your exam. Finally, we have may and might. These two are all about possibility. May suggests a slightly higher possibility than might, but they can often be used interchangeably. For example, it may rain tomorrow, or it might rain tomorrow. Chapter 6. Ori, time flies when you're speaking English. Now, let's talk about telling time in English. We'll start with the basics. O'clock. When the minute hand is pointing at the 12, we use a clock to tell the time. So if it's 2 o'clock, we say 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock is 3 o'clock, and so on. Now, what about those minutes in between the hours? Well, when the minute hand is on the right side of the clock, we use past to tell the time. For example, if it's 2:15, we say 2:15. If it's 2:30, we say 2:30. And when the minute hand is on the left side of the clock, we use it to tell the time. So if it's 2:45, we say 2:45. Of course, you can also use the digital format, like 2:30 or 10:45. But being able to tell time using the o'clock, past, and to system will make your English sound much more natural and fluent. Chapter 7. Minute. It's all in the details. Okay, let's zoom in on minutes. Now, you know how to say the hour and whether it's past or to the hour. But what about those specific minutes in between? Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it seems. You're already familiar with quarter past and half past, but what about the other minutes? Well, we simply say the number of minutes after the hour. For example, 2:05 is 5 past 2, 2:10 is 10 past 2, 2:20 is 20 past 2, and so on. The same goes for minutes to the hour. 2:50 is 10 to 3, 2:45 is 15 to 3, and so on. Chapter 8. Giorni della settimana, from Monday to Fun Day. All right, let's wrap things up with the days of the week. We start the week with Monday, then comes Tuesday, followed by Wednesday. The week continues with Thursday, and then it's Friday. Finally, we have the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Easy peasy, right? Now here's a little tip to help you remember the days of the week. Try using a memory aid. For example, you could use the first letter of each day to create a silly sentence or phrase. Outro Master English Essential Vocabulary. Wrap up. That's it for today's video. We hope you found this vocabulary list helpful. Remember, practice makes perfect. Don't be afraid to use these new words and phrases in your everyday conversations, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable at first. The more you use them, the more confident you'll become. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more language learning tips. See you in the next video.